Department investigation found that the bank's countrywide financial unit charged minority borrowers higher rates and fees than white borrowers, even though they had similar credit profiles. Attorney General Eric Holder said the settlement sends a strong message to lenders.
Today's settlement makes clear that today's Justice Department and all the partners behind me will not hesitate to move aggressively in holding lenders, including the nation's largest, accountable for discrimination and financial misconduct. We are committed to protecting the sacred rights and the best interests of the American people. And under this administration, these harmful and discriminatory practices simply will not be tolerated.
Well, I'm joined now by Richard Zombeck in Boston, Massachusetts. He's a spokesperson for the organization U.S. Residential and a blogger for the Huffington Post. Thanks for joining us.
How are you?
Let me ask you first about that settlement that Bank of America has just made. We heard there Attorney General Eric Holder saying that it sends a very strong message to lenders. So do you think that banks are now going to be a little bit more circumspect when they move in on foreclosure?
No, frankly, I don't. I mean, $335 million, while it might sound like a tremendous amount to the average homeowner or person on the street, $335 million is really a drop in the bucket. I mean, Citigroup recently had a settlement for $285 million that Superior District Court rejected because it really didn't go deep enough into the backgrounds on the mortgages. Frankly, the investigations into these aren't really as in-depth as they should be, and nobody is really, there's no admission of wrongdoing or denial of wrongdoing, and this is kind of what they do, right? They get away with billions and billions of dollars, they get slapped with a small insignificant suit, and they go on about their way.
Well, let's look at the broader picture here. Now, one of the consequences of going from housing boom to housing bust, as we know, is a dramatic fall in home values. The real estate group Zillow says that $9 trillion in value has been wiped off the books since the height of the housing boom in 2006, and close to a third of all homeowners in the country are underwater. Now, that means they owe more money than their houses are worth. The actual figure is 28.6%, which amounts to nearly 14.6 million people. Now, when we look at those figures and that kind of picture, Richard, surely it must have a major effect on the economy of the country as a whole.
Oh, it absolutely does. And I mean, not only are home prices falling, people don't have the equity that they used to in their homes because of the underlying fraud and everything. I mean, here in Massachusetts, Martha Coakley, I think you had it in a previous segment, is doing tremendous things. There are about maybe a handful of attorney generals across the country that are joining in that kind of charge. We have a registry of deeds in Salem, Massachusetts that looked through his registry, I think to about 5,000 or 6,000 documents, and came to the conclusion that 75% of the property records in his registry of deeds were fraudulent or had robo-signing, or there was no chain of title. So not only have the home values dropped, but people really don't know what they're paying for, and there's no way to track that at this point.
Let's get back to the government's role in this. What can government do now, that they're not doing, of course, to prevent more foreclosures?
Well, I think if you take a look at what happened during the S&L crisis back in the 80s, there were 1,800 arrests. This has been calculated at 70 times the amount of fraud has taken place just in the last 3 years. And really no one's been held accountable. And until the people that were responsible for this are held accountable, quite frankly, I don't think that there's, the government tried. They tried with HAMP, with the modification program, and that was basically, a free ride again for the banks. I think maybe 200,000 homeowners of a projected 4 to 6 million actually got help in that. And at the numbers, realistically, it really wasn't any help at all.
Richard Zombeck, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.